Okay, so I'm going to show you real quick the down rail jig that I have. Now, very, very easy jig to make. Anyone can make this. It doesn't matter what kind of table or materials you have, anyone can make this. You can see what we have is I'm still using my wooden table. I usually always use wooden tables. And we just have a nice thick piece of angle iron here. It's not too thick, it's about 1/4 inch thick, but I want it good and sturdy because I know that this is rigid. I know that it's not going to wobble or bend. I know that it's going to be something that I can clamp materials to without it moving. Now, very simple. I have a piece that's the width of my table. I have a 4-foot wide table, so I have a 4-foot wide or 4-foot long piece of angle here because I wanted it to go the length of my table. Now, all we did was we drilled 2 holes, just 2 holes. One small hole, just so a screw could go through, you know, like 3/16, something, 5/16, something like that, that a screw could go to. I've said 5/16, a 3/16 hole so your screw could go through. And then we have like a 1/2 inch hole down here for a 1/2 inch bolt. And the only reason I have a 1/2 inch bolt is simply because I had one laying around. You can see I don't have this bolted down, but we just had this decorative bolt laying around, so that's what we used. We just drilled a hole through the material, and then we're going to drill a hole through the table. Now, it's important that you leave a little bit of a gap down here on the table. You don't want this to go all the way flush on the table, because when you start to move this, it's going to hit and it's not going to give you a full range of motion. And you'll see what I mean here in just a second. So right now you can see I have it set so I have a little bit of an angle. So this in here is going to be my working area. It's not a 90 degree right here. This is well, it's closer to a 45. Now this is usually what I use for down rails. I'll show you how to quickly change your angle. It's really just as simple as removing this screw. So I'm going to take my screw gun or screwdriver, whatever it is that you have that you can use, unscrew that really quick, and now I have a full range of motion that I can move this piece of metal. And that's going to change my angle. So all I need to do is figure out what angle I want. I'll just come right here in this little section here, figure out what your angle is, draw your line, and then you can literally just move your piece of metal to line up with your line, screw in the screw, and you're all set. You're ready to go. You've got a very quick, very easy to maneuver jig that you can use for any angles. And this also makes great right angle jig. So I can move this here. I'll just set a square up to here real quick. Make sure that I have a 90. Screw my screw back in there, and I have a great 2-sided table to work off of, which is excellent. I almost always do all my projects in this section here because I have 2 edges to butt all my stuff up against. So I can quickly move stuff around. I don't have to worry about clamping so many different things down and moving tons of jigs around to make sure everything is square. So that's it. That's my easy to maneuver jig. Again, you can use this for any kind of down rails and a lot of other projects too. Okay, so now that we have our jig in place, we've found our angle that we want to work with, and we've screwed everything down so it's good and sturdy, it's not going to go anywhere. Now we can pull our measurements, set up the rest of the jigs, and start to put this railing together. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to measure how far down we need to place our channel. So if you imagine this end as being the very top of your railing, and down here is where your bottom rail is going to be. That is the measurements you're going to pull. So I'll pull from the top all the way down to the bottom. I know that it's going to be 32 inches on my particular one. I'll mark where the 32-inch line is. And now I know where to draw my straight lines. So you can take your other piece of channel, line that up on the 32 inches for me, wherever it is it's going to be for you. And here's how to quickly pull a straight line going the rest of the way. So I'm just going to take this, hold it in place where it needs to be, and I can see that that's 28 inches for me. Now, all I need to do is come down to the opposite side here, or maybe somewhere in the middle if you have a longer section, and make sure that I'm 28 inches the same as the other side. So that way I know that I'm square. I know that I have a straight line. So with that in place, I'll just simply take my marker and I will draw a line on my table. Very simple, very simple. Pull that up. Now I know where I want to place my jigs. And I'll take my little jig block, your jig blocks, your angle, whatever it is that you're using. I like using my little angle pieces here. I'll line those up perfectly on that line. I'll put in my screws, keep everything nice and tight, put my channel back on there, clamp this, and then put in the pickets. Very simple, very easy to adjust if you need to. And again, just make sure that everything is good and tight. Make sure that your blocks are down good and secure, because once you clamp this channel to it, sometimes if it's not secure, your blocks will move around or your jigs will move, and then it'll get your railing off towards the end. Alright, so now I have everything in place. I have my channel clamped down, I have my jigs in place, my channel is clamped down for the bottom rails. Now I need to find out the length of my pickets. And for the down rails, you need to kind of put everything in place before you can really find the true length of your picket. Because for each different angle you have for each different railing project, your down rail pickets are going to be a different length. Now they're always going to be within a certain amount, but it's still, you could be as much as an inch to an inch and a half difference, shorter or longer, depending on the angle that you're going to be using. So I like to just be on the safe side and clamp everything down, have my basic framework in place, so then I can pull my measurements and find out the length that I need. And this is very easy to do. So I have everything in place. All I need to do is just measure from one hole, one punch, to the next. Now, oops, I didn't have that clamped very well. So if you're using the solid channel, then of course you're gonna want to mark out where each picket is going to go and be very precise to make sure that you have the same markings on the bottom channel as on the top channel. It's very, very important that you get these exactly the same. So we're just going to pick one line or one hole, and we're going to line it up with the next one and see what the measurement is. And since you have a little bit of a breathing room on the top and on the bottom of each piece of channel, like down on the bottom rail you have this bottom section that's open, so you have a little bit of a gap there that you can kind of jiggle your picket in and out, so you can make it a little bit longer to make sure that you have a really good fit. Now you can't do that with the solid channel, which is one reason why I really don't like using just the straight up solid channel. I like using the punch, because with the solid channel, to really get a nice look, you're going to have to cut angles on every one of your pickets, which is very time consuming, and there's a lot of room for error there when you're doing that. So I'm going to pull my measurements. I'm just going to pick one hole and I'm going to line it up, and I can see that from channel to channel I'm at 28 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself another 1/4 inch on top of that, just to give me a little wiggle room to make sure that I'm fitting all the way in the holes. So I'm going to go ahead and cut mine at 28 1/2 inches. Next thing you need to do is just count your holes or count your lines, however you've done this, and figure out how many pickets you need, and go ahead and cut that amount at the length that you need. Okay, so now I've cut my pickets in place. All I need to do is just a matter of putting them where they need to go. Just filling them, putting them in the holes. Sometimes you might need to kind of smack them in there a little bit just to get them in. But you want to, if they're good and tight, that's good. It means they're not going to go anywhere, and you're filling in all the holes for the punch channel. Now,